Thank you. Okay, we have some right there. And we're the kids. Because I want to talk to the kids a bit about what keeps me up at night. And about how your childhood right now is so good and so easy and so effortless. You have Xbox, you have iPhones, you have iPods, you have iPads. Yeah, thumbs up, yeah, you got all that. Yeah, I had crayons. And an Etch-a-Sketch. And Light Bright. And that was it. But you know what you have that I didn't have back then? You have, I'm talking to my nephews back there, you have accountability. You know? We know where you are. There's 11-year-olds right now with cell phones. We know where you are. We can find you. If something happens to you, we can find you. You can call us anytime you want. We can call you. We know exactly where you got the GPS in your head. We know where you are. When I was a child, when I left for school or went out to play with my friends or went to the store to get candy, I don't know where I was. I was gone. There was no contact with me. I was like Kaiser Soze. I was gone. For 8 hours a day. Yeah, I could have been in school, but I could have been anywhere. And if no one could get in contact with me, but if I wanted to get in contact with someone else, if I wanted to call my mom and say, hey, I'm going to be late for school or I'm hanging out with my buddies, I had to pay for that privilege. I had to find a pay phone. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
That it's a glass box lined with metal, and inside is a phone. Under that are the yellow pages. Inside a bulletproof cover, attached to a chain, inside the booth. So if something went down, you're in glass, but just hide behind the yellow pages. Because nothing was getting through to this phone book. That's what we had to live with. And so if you had a quarter, or a dime, depending how old you are, you could put that in and you call your mom and dad. But the worst thing can happen though. You can get a tone. Beep, 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 beep. They're on the other line. Or even worse than that, the phone would just ring and ring and ring and ring. And you've truly been abandoned. You've truly been cut off from the civilized world. No one knows where I am. Because when you're on your other side of that, we played Russian roulette. We played with our lives. When you're on the other side of that, in my childhood, the phone rang. Oh, who's that? I have no idea who that is. Do you know who that is? Who's calling our house? You didn't know. Every time you picked up the phone, that was a rush of adrenaline. Who could it be? What could it be? Be a neighbor? Co-worker? Girlfriend? Boyfriend? Psychomaniac. See, psychomaniacs called you back then. They were very considerate. But you had no idea. You had to pick up the phone to find out who it is. Now, no matter who calls you, you know exactly who it is. The idea of I wasn't home doesn't apply anymore. Because if you're not home, I can still find you. And the worst is, if you know someone's calling, you can look right, oh, man, I ain't picking this up. In my childhood, you had to pick it up. Didn't know who it was. You had to deal with it. You know what also you have that I'm very envious of, that I dreamed about when I was your age, when I was holding a teddy bear? See, right now, you can watch cartoons whenever you want. Any time of the day, any day of the week, anywhere. There's always a cartoon playing. You have a whole network full of cartoons. My childhood, you can only watch cartoons one time, one place, Saturday morning. And if you overslept, hey, you just missed it. You wanted to see Harlem Globetrotters on Scooby-Doo? You overslept? Hey, maybe next year. They might be on again, they might not. You don't know. That was what I had to deal with cartoons. And the thing is, we live in a nation now of obesity and childhood this and childhood that. Where I was growing up with television was exercise. Because you had to get up to turn on the TV. Bend, turn it on, stoop, channel. And 3, adjust the antenna to make sure the picture came in right. And once you got it just right, then you could watch. But then when it's over, or a commercial, get up, change the channel, adjust the antenna, and sit back down. I got a whole workout in just watching cartoons. I go from the Smurfs to the Scooby-Doo Hour to the Tom and Jerry Great Babe Show to Jabberjaw to you name it, the Wacky Races, Super Friends. That was my entire life. Every Saturday, I got a good workout in. And I needed a good workout because, see, you're very lucky now because we're an overprotective society. I grew up with no such rules. I rode bicycles with rusty screws sticking out of the sides, downhill, very fast, with no helmet, no shin guards, no elbow pads, and often no brakes. There were no handbrakes. You had to pedal backwards to stop and going downhill. And the thing is, now we're safety conscious, we're health conscious. You have to wear all of that before you go outside. But I had none of that. All I had was the ever-looming threat of doom. A doom that was instilled in me with every parent that I knew, every parent that anyone else knew. It was told to me. It was told over and over again to me. What would happen if I fell? If you fall, you could fall and crack your head open. Crack your head open. That's what was told to me. That's what I believe would happen to me. If I fell, I could crack my head open. And see, I had that mind that I've fallen plenty of times. I've fallen on plenty of bikes, swings, seesaws. I fell off the porch, I fell on the stairs. And every time I was fine, but there was always a thing in the back of my mind that if I fell just the right way, just the right angle, just hit the right point at the right pressure at the right time, boom! My head could crack open. Then my mom would finally be able to wade through my brains because my head had been cracked open and look down at me and say, I told you so. You cracked your head open. And that was a fear that I had. That's what kept me safe, from injury, was I could fall and crack my head open. What kept me in line and kept me indoors for the most part was the dread that every parent goes through of a lost child. Now, I already told you, there was no accountability for when I was a kid. No one could find me if I left the house. There was no cell phones, no GPS, no nothing. But if I was lost, that was the parent's greatest fear, because if you were a lost child, you could all wind up in the same place. Invariably, no matter what child you are, if your parents couldn't find you, you could end up here. Now, this place was like a magical place to me. It was like where all lost kids went. Like Peter Pan and Neverland or Michael Jackson's Ranch. All kids ended up there. Because my mother and many parents told me, I was afraid I lost you. I was afraid you'd end up in a ditch somewhere. Now see, the way I saw it was this magical ditch that went across the country like Route 66. And it was just dug out and just kids were there. And they were unhurt, they were unharmed. They were just laying there. You lost? Yeah. I was at my buddies and I got turned around, and so I just came here. Yeah, me too. Nice, yeah. Well, my parents know where to find me. I was in a ditch somewhere. That's where lost children go. According to me and according to many parents. My brother came home late one night. He had a curfew back then. You had curfews. And my mother was worried sick because no cell phones. We couldn't find him. We couldn't go anywhere. My mother was out of her. Me, trying to help, trying to be practical. I said, Mom, Mother dear, is there a ditch we can check? He could be there. That's the thing. Now, I I lived in North Philly. Okay, I grew up in North Philly. Ditches were scarce. Okay? There was concrete, dead trees. Ditch, please. There was no ditch. But I offered that scenario possibly to my mother. Have we checked, and we lived in North Philly, we could take the L maybe to an out-of-town ditch. Maybe someone had seen them there. We could call around to all the local ditches. Want it turned up. Because more than likely, if you can't find your child, you could end up in a ditch somewhere. I told this to my mom, can we check the ditch? And she gave me pop. And that's one thing I can admit to all of you here, and I can admit to the kids here, and there's nothing wrong, because I was beaten as a child. Okay? Nothing wrong with that, I came out okay, but I was beaten as a child. I did something wrong, I got beat. That was the end result. I lived in fear all of my life of getting beat. You know, and there's other, and you know, there was no parenting class back then. There was no, you know, timeout. There was no Dr. Phil. There was no, you know, safety. There was like, you said something wrong, you got beat, and that's what kept me in line. The fear of the beat. And see, with my mother, it was a variety of beats that I would get, because this one time I cut up her Ebony magazine that she hadn't read yet. And I went to school the next day as a white child. Because see what had happened, my mom had beat all the black off me. That's what she threatened to do. And I did something wrong, and so she went ahead and did it. Another time I was jumping up and down on her bed, on my mom and dad's bed, because they have the best beds. Mom and dad had the best beds. My beds were okay, but my mom had really good spring action. So I was jumping up and down. And I was told all the time, and you could also lie to your parents back then, more effective. Jumping on my mom's bed, I'll be, you know, trying to touch the ceiling. My mom's going like, Craig, are you jumping on that bed? No. Well, what are you doing? Nothing. I stopped jumping because I broke the box spring. Back then, beds had these little wooden things underneath the bed, and if you jumped hard enough, it would break. Okay, so I felt something give, and I think, okay, well, I've had enough fun for today. So I went to bed. My father was a fireman. He worked late. He was coming home from, I think, a 12-hour shift. I was already asleep. He'd come home, and he'd gotten into bed with my mom. And apparently, at some point during the night, the bed broke. And my mom was screaming like Mariah Carey. My dad was cursing like Samuel L. Jackson. And I came in like Chris Farley, seeing my mom and dad on the floor, and I was like, what did you do? How could such a thing come to pass? And my mom looked dead at me, and I don't remember anything after that. But she sent a note to my school, my teachers, because of my absence, and it clearly said, I apologize to you, Mr. Rand. I slapped Craig into next week. He'll be back on Tuesday. Please forward any homework you have to this address. But that was my childhood. That's what I grew up with. And the one thing you guys have now that I had the luxury back then, well, it's more detailed now, but I had imaginary friends. I had an imaginary friend that helped me out and all sorts of things, was always with me no matter what. I mean, we fought praying mantises on Mars. We jumped over the living room on the chairs on the tables because the living room had somehow been filled with molten lava. We tried to reach the stars by a trampoline that was my mom's bed. All of these things that made my life worth living was my imaginary friend. You know? And no one could see him, didn't exist on paper, was my friend. Be anything you wanted. He could be a giant grizzly. He could be a super bear. He could be anything I wanted because it was my imagination. I ran into my imaginary friend last week. It had been a while. I hadn't seen him. He might have been in a ditch somewhere. And he confessed to me that he had been on performance-enhancing drugs that whole time when we were together. So all of our childhood memories weren't real. Such a shame. But the one thing you have more than anything else is you have a future and you have a life of happy memories. And I'm not saying that my childhood was better than yours, because old people say the same thing. Oh, you kids today, you don't know what you got. You know what you do have? You have the one fail-safe that will come to you no matter what. It's your own bat signal, it's your own, in case of emergency, break glass, it's your fail-safe, it's your enforcer, it's your ATM, okay? It's your white knight, it's your Batman. It's your one thing that you can call on when all else fails. And I still do it to this day, and I'll probably do it for you right now.